It's the George Plaster Show. 30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. Featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer Watson Brown. And it's a shame it's taken this long to get an introduction for this Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer, Kelly Holcomb, along with young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. It's a beautiful Monday afternoon in Nashville, Tennessee. Let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to do this week. We will be with you, obviously, today, then Thursday and Friday. Thus, today is our final show of 2024, but we wish all of you nothing but the best in 2025. Let's start in Murfreesboro. Say hello to Kelly Holcomb. Kelly, how are you?
Hey, George, how you doing?
Good. You watch a lot of football?
I saw some. Yes, absolutely. I saw enough. Saw enough of it.
We all saw enough.
Yeah.
Let's check in with Billy, who made it to Birmingham on Friday. Billy doesn't appear to have a picture, and maybe that's a good thing. Who knows?
Kelly, can you see me?
I can see you.
Okay. So on George's end, you can't see me, but yeah, maybe that's a good thing for you, George.
It could be. Billy, how was Birmingham?
It was good. It was rainy. It was a good crowd, though. I mean, Georgia Tech definitely had more fans there, but I mean, it was a good game. Vanderbilt, of course, ended up getting the win, but I mean, it was fun. I'd never been to that stadium. I think that's that's especially a rivalry that I think needs to be played because it looked like those two teams hated each other by the end of it.
Yeah, I don't know what all the animosity was, but there certainly wasn't. However, it paled in comparison to East Carolina, NC State, but we'll get to that perhaps later on. Let's start with the inevitable, the Daily Titans update with Terry McCormick. Terry, not that you're a problem, but the team is.
Oh, the team's got so many problems, George. And I think you saw it on full display yesterday.
Yeah.
Every time you think this team can't reach a new low, they still do. It's unbelievable.
Terry, first of all, I'll ask the obligatory injury question. Anybody get hurt?
Well, Tajay Spears left with a concussion. Craziest thing, this kind of sums up the Titans season in a nutshell right here. He had the first 100-yard rushing game of his career. Then he was dropped for a 5-yard loss and suffered a concussion on the play. So he lost the 100-yard game, and he got no more chances to finish the game because he was done for the day with the concussion.
And he's got the bubble on his head, and he's still got a concussion.
Yes. And the other injury, Jalen Duncan left the game yesterday with a shoulder injury. They can't keep this guy healthy enough, long enough to see if he could possibly be an answer at right tackle. So that turnstile continues over there at right tackle, just a revolving door.
Terry, for the second week in a row, they go Mason Rudolph over Will Levis. To your knowledge, have they told Will Levis you're through here?
I don't know. They keep saying that it's a week-to-week evaluation, as to who's going to start. To my way of thinking, I think you roll Levis out there this week because, one, he beat Houston, and two, this line of thought that Mason Rudolph is giving them a better chance to win hasn't produced a win. So why wouldn't you go back and let Levis sling it around the yard, see if he can make a play or two that might change a game? Now, it might change it in a negative way. We certainly saw that at times this year, and that's what got him benched against Cincinnati. But who knows? The last time he faced the Texans, he had 2 long touchdown passes that helped him win the game.
Terry, there has always been this level of internal hatred for the Texans in the Adams family. Bud absolutely despised them, acted every time they played each other like it was a Super Bowl. And it sounds like she's got a little bit of the same kind of stuff in her. If this doesn't go well on Sunday, does this push something over the edge that maybe isn't over the edge yet?
Yeah, I mean, right now, everything that I'm hearing and that everybody seems to be hearing is that Callahan and Carthon are safe. And now holding this number 2 overall pick, which could possibly turn into a quarterback or if they decide to trade down, a bevy of picks that could rebuild the roster. I think these guys will get a chance to do that. Now, that said, if they go out there against the Texans backups and get beat 49-3, she may clean house and say everybody's gone. So who knows what she's thinking. But I think at least leading up to this, I think everybody is probably safe, but kind of starts out on a very warm seat next year.
Whew. If there is a seat at all. Terry, anything else we ought to get into?
No, that's about it, George. I mean, we can talk a little bit about them being at number 2. A lot of people now are projecting them to be in the sweepstakes for Shedeur Sanders if they want to go down that path and take a young quarterback. I personally think that the roster needs a lot of upgrading in a lot of places to give Sanders or whoever it is at quarterback a fighting chance to be good. The last thing you want to do, in my opinion, is to put a guy in a situation like you've seen what's happened to Caleb Williams this year, where he's been running for his life and not been able to get anything done for the Bears. I just don't know that any quarterback can overcome and survive that and thrive in that environment without pieces in place.
Terry will obviously spend a lot of the offseason on some of this stuff. Thanks as always. Have a good one. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys.
Terry McCormick, Main Street Media, TitanInsider.com, starting the show out, as is the case, every day during football season. We then segue, Billy, to you.
Yes. Lori Burnett Leland sponsors today's update. You can find her online at mortgageladyusa.com or give her a call, 615-969-4350. Well, this was within the last couple of days a somber note. I can't remember if this was Christmas Day or not, but Greg Gumbel, a veteran of CBS Sports, spent more than 50 years in sports broadcasting, passed away from cancer at the age of 78. His family said that was Friday. Yeah. So it's just unfortunate. He missed his first NCAA tournament this past March since 1997 due to what he said at the time were family health issues. But it's not March Madness. It had already felt different without him last March, but March Madness will never be the same without him.
He was not only a class act, but a guy who was equally as good in the play-by-play as he was in studio. And that's really saying something. He's going to be missed.
Preds in action tonight in Winnipeg to play the Jets. The Jets are 26-10, so pretty much polar opposites of the Preds. That would be I don't think they match up particularly well with them, George, but it'd be a big one if they could get it tonight.
Although they beat the snot out of them in late November here in one of the 2 or 3 best games they've played all season. So who knows?
All right, last night, Commanders beat the Falcons, and they punched their ticket to the playoffs. But there's a lot of talk about Raheem Morris not taking a timeout. He let 17 seconds run off the clock after a completion to Darnell Mooney, and he admitted after the game, he said that it might have been wise to use a timeout. Yeah, you think, Raheem?
No, it wouldn't have been wise. It would have been obvious. So, Kelly, in a lot of the teams you've been on, does the head coach sort of turn to somebody and say, look, I've got so much going on, yell in my ears when I need to do something?
Well, normally, George, now they got these analytic guys, and these analytic guys are looking up, and they're telling you to go on for it on fourth down, or, what we should do here in this certain situation. And I would think that somebody's in his ear. I would be a coach, because I remember, this was in high school, but I remember saying, we need to call a timeout. We need to call a timeout. Surely somebody was telling him that you've got 2 left and the game is tight right there. That's what you keep those 2 for. You'd like to have 3, but you keep those 2 when it gets to a certain situation in the game, like what happened last night. And I couldn't believe if you take 1, you've still got 1. I just don't understand what he was doing, because that would have been a big help, but he let so much time run off the clock. And you've got, as a coach, George, it's just like a player. You've got to think about those situations in your head and go over it. Like, if this happens, I'm going to do this, or if that happens, I'm going to do something else. And he was not prepared for that, which is kind of crazy to me.
No, and to be honest, it happened on 2 different occasions. It happened late in the first half when the Falcons got the ball. That said, this loss has probably ended the Falcons' season. Yep. But the Falcons are a team on the rise, which is a heck of a lot more than you can say for the dumpster fire we're watching. They've got some real pieces, and Penix, who throws the prettiest ball since Warren Moon, he looks like, Kelly, that he's ready to emerge.
Yeah, you're right. And that pass he threw to Kyle Pitts last night to tie the game, I mean, that was a laser. He threw that right off the backer's ear, which is where that's how you're supposed to throw that. He threw it right off the backer's ear before the safety could get there. And that guy does have some talent. He showed it at the University of Washington. There's a reason that DeBoer brought him along from Indiana to Washington, and he got that team to the national championship game, which was kind of unbelievable. So he's a talented guy. They obviously see something, but I was amazed, because you don't really see the Falcons around our area. Of course, they're down in the region, but I don't ever watch the Falcons, I'll be honest with you. But last night, because the Commanders are pretty good with Jaden Daniels, they have gotten themselves good as well. And I was quite shocked to see just how good the Atlanta Falcons are on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Well, there's an old saying in Atlanta, Falcon fever, catch it.
College football. At his media availability for the Fiesta Bowl, James Franklin said that Nick Saban is the obvious choice to navigate college football as the next commissioner, or as the first commissioner. Franklin is not alone. Last week, Lane Kiffin posted on Twitter that he would vote for Nick Saban in that role as well. When is this going to happen? I mean, what is it going to take for this to happen?
Well, I don't know what the mechanisms are to form something and tell the NCAA to kiss off, which is essentially what all of these people are saying ought to happen. Secondly, we don't know if Nick Saban has any interest in this kind of thing. There are probably 4 or 5 people out there that would make good commissioners. You know, if you pressed me on it, I could probably come up with them. Kelly, I don't know how it gets funded or what mechanisms have to go into place, but after watching, and we're going to talk about one particular setup that happened this weekend that made me want to puke. Something needs to happen. It's fun watching college football, but how the sausage is made has gone terribly wrong.
It needs common sense is what it needs. And I was talking to Watson the other day, and I told him about what you said about he and his brother and maybe Nick's some other guy. Like, there needs to be some common sense in this, and guys need to come to their senses, because it's out of control. There's like 5,700 kids in the transfer portal, and a lot of those kids, I understand, because my son's been there. I understand that you got to get in it for different reasons, but some of them are just, they're looking for a payday, and it's gotten out of control. They're going to have to do something with this NIL stuff, and you need some older coaches that understand it, because I love the game, but they're going to start turning people off with these guys making so much money, and it's going to turn the game. Like, I don't see how you can screw something that was so good up so fast.
Pretty amazing.
Well, the portal apparently closes publicly tonight at midnight, but Tennessee wide receiver Mike Matthews who is one of their, I mean, he was going to be one of their better receivers next year, has reportedly entered the portal or expressed interest in entering the portal. There were some late rumors that Nico had an offer from Miami, but that obviously didn't happen. So
was he going to play in the second half for Cam Ward?
Maybe that was in the discussion there, but
that's what we're going to get into later. What a pathetic story.
Yeah, well, there's a record involved there, but again, that's not acceptable. I don't think. Also, college basketball news: 6 former Florida State basketball players have sued head coach Leonard Hamilton, alleging he failed to make good on a promise to get each of them $250,000 in NIL compensation. The players allege Hamilton promised them money from his business partners. The lawsuits say they walked out of a practice last year over the missed payments and intended to boycott a game against Duke. They ended up playing amid a guarantee from Hamilton that they would be paid, but never were. So,
oops. This is I don't know if it's the first of many, Kelly, but it's the latest.
It's the new age of college sports, that's for sure. And I don't understand if you don't sign your name with a contract, if you promise somebody something, like it's going through channels and they may not get the money. Like, I don't understand how all this happens. And I hear that it's happening at some schools where they're promised something. It's happening more than once where they're promised something and then it never comes to fruition.
Well, you can promise. I mean, coaches promise things all the time, but that's why but there's no rule that there has to be a contract either. I mean, there's so many issues.
It's the wild, wild west. And the courts have not helped it one bit. And that part's discouraging. But film at 11.
We do have some, obviously, Music City Bowl going on right now, but college basketball tonight, Vanderbilt hosting New Orleans at 7 o'clock. I don't think that'll be – they're favored by 31, George, so I don't think that'll be very difficult.
Is Derek Carr their point guard?
No, he's not, but – speaking of Derek Carr, that could be an option for the Titans. I'm sure we'll get into that eventually with Terry.
Oh, eventually.
Yeah. But
okay,
one more yesterday, and I know this. I don't know if Terry noticed this too, but apparently in the press conference, Brian Callahan slipped out that Mason Rudolph could be the bridge quarterback next year, and he might still be on the team next year. So, for whatever that's worth.
Interesting. Okay, we done?
Done.
Okay, after the break, we will discuss yesterday's dumpster fire and the new development that has people all over the place in water cooler talk going, what would you do with number 2? That's a rhyme. This is 94.9, The Fan.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, you need to call Bart Durham. And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Okay, we are back. And as is the case most Mondays during football season, we'll talk a little bit about the Titans. You may ask yourself, why put us through that? I don't have a good answer to that. Kelly, so we now see that on two different occasions this year, they're not even good enough to beat the pathetic Jacksonville Jaguars, which really states the obvious of how bad the Titans really are.
Yeah, George, it's not good. I was, Tony Pollard's out. Tony Pollard's, I don't think they've used him enough, in my opinion, this year. But Tyjae Spears looked pretty good. That was his first 100-yard rushing day yesterday. But you look at it, and he's not a very big guy. Like Tony Pollard is kind of thicker, more of a first running back, can kind of take the punishment. But, just like I said to Terry, I mean, Tyjae Spears, and I know this happens, but he's got that cone thing on his helmet that looks crazy to me. I don't understand, but he still gets a concussion. So you've got to be available. You've got to be depended on. I'm not sure that they're there yet, especially with the kind of season they're having. Like, you're not going to get anybody to fight through anything. When you're 3-13 or 3-12 going into the game, it's a hard sell for a guy to say, hey, if I'm not 100%, I'm not going out there, because right now what they're doing is they're looking to other teams. If they're in free agency, they're going free agency. They're playing for themselves, if you want to be honest, George. And if they're hurt, and they don't think they're 100%, they're not going to play. And I think that's kind of what's happening now. I will say this, and I said it a couple of weeks ago, I think they found something. That tight end's pretty good. Okonkwo they figured out that this dude can make plays, and he's like a yards after catch. He's a yak guy. They even gave him a reverse yesterday. Mm-hmm. That's one positive you look at. And then I think that Calvin Ridley, you found something there. I still don't think Tyler Boyd has done what they thought he would do when he came here. He hadn't had the productivity that he had in Cincinnati, I don't think. But you're playing with a different quarterback, and a quarterback that actually understands the game in Joe Burrow. Now, I'm not saying that Mason Rudolph does not. Mason Rudolph's been around for a long time, and I heard a stat yesterday on the game that he's leading in the last couple of games that he's played. He's leading in completion percentage, and that's what they want. They want a guy. That's kind of the guy I was. He gets back, he makes a decision, and he throws the football. And that's the timing of everything has to be there. He's not as athletic, obviously, as Will Levis, but he can make some things happen, and I think he's kind of accurate with the football. He had a bad, the interception got tipped at the line of scrimmage, and then it went through Julius Chestnut's hands, and somebody picked it off. But yeah, George, they're not going anywhere. They're not very good. You got guys playing for themselves right now. They're playing for future contracts. That's a bad thing to say, but that's just the way this game is, especially when you're losing like this. And to go down in Jacksonville, and they've got Mac Jones, who just got there this past year, and The Thomas kid, like he's done some. I hadn't even heard of him until yesterday, and I'm like, I'm figuring this guy out. Like he's up there with the Randy Mosses. They put the graphic up yesterday about he's got over 1,000 yards receiving this year for a rookie. So they've got some things going. I thought they would be better. Obviously, their quarterback got injured this year, but they're not very good. The Titans aren't very good, and then they go down there and they just. I don't know. It's just like blah. That's kind of what it looks like to me. I don't know about you, but it's just like it's this again, and we're talking about this again. They're not very good. I don't know how you can fix all that they've got going on. And Terry talked about a quarterback, but the way that the quarterback situation is coming out of I just don't see it, George. I don't know where you go, and that's why they get paid the big bucks and I don't.
Okay, let's start with the whole Mason Rudolph part of this.
Yeah.
So he started these last two games, which feels to me like they're telling Will Levis, look, at the end of the year, get lost.
That's what it feels like to me.
My gut feeling is I'm okay with Mason Rudolph as the backup. He is what he is. Yeah. He's won some games. He's a serviceable backup. But Bridge,
I don't know. Maybe there's not another Bridge guy out there, George. Let's be honest about that. And I think what he did last year at Pittsburgh when he came when he got into free agency, he took Pittsburgh, which is a different team, and they were playing a couple of teams like Baltimore the last game of the season. They didn't play their starters like normally, so because they were already in the playoffs and they had already had their spot in the playoff position. So he played good in those games. Now I think he is a backup. I'm not saying that he can't be a Bridge quarterback, but you've got to get some help on the offensive line. It's kind of frustrating for me as a quarterback to see when they snap the football, like he was getting so much pressure from that D line from Jacksonville yesterday. They were just squeezing the pocket on him, and he had nowhere to go. And you've got to give him some kind of help, and it's just not there, George. He has to have help up front. He has to get rid of the ball. He has to have a quick game deal. He has to know where the ball's going. If you do, you don't have to have much blocking, but he's got to have more than he had yesterday because the pocket was just collapsing on him too far. I'm not saying he can't be a Bridge quarterback for a year. I think if you put more players around him, I think he can make plays, but I'm not sure. I'm kind of on the fence about that. I'm not as gung ho with you saying no. I'm not there yet.
No, I like Mason Rudolph, but I like him as the backup quarterback. I don't like him as a 1-year Bridge, which feels like the cheap way to go about it. But
is Brian Callahan? Do you think Brian Callahan has that though, George? Do you think he has another year of this kind of play?
Kelly, I have no idea what's going on there. You've got an owner who has remained very silent while the rumors about Callahan in the last month have swirled a little bit. Why she's staying quiet, only she knows for sure, but we're going to get the answers one way or the other, I would think early next week. Now, one thing I think is safe to assume, if midway through next year it looks like this, Rand Carthon ought to be shown the door, Brian Callahan ought to be shown the door. It will then be time to completely clean out this mess and start all over with more experienced people who have a clue as to how to start to fix this. So, Billy, you were showing us, I guess, the tip ball that led to the interception when Jacksonville was up 3-0. Can we just for the sake of, fun, show the Titan touchdown?
Yeah, pulling that up here in a second.
Okay, because it'll be riveting.
Oh yeah,
they're good for one. They're good for one a game, whether they need it or not.
It was a good sell job by Vanette, the tight end. He did a really good job of blocking and making sure everybody went, and then snuck underneath. Somebody's supposed to have him because I think I think the announcer talked about how everybody was pointing to their man, I can't remember his name, but
Adam Archuleta.
Adam Archuleta, yeah, he was talking about the guys pointing, and he was like, well, obviously somebody didn't point at him because he got let go.
Kelly, one of the things that has really confused me, because I look around the league at teams that really do a good job of utilizing their tight ends. Kansas City is the best at it between Kelsey and Noah Gray, but there are others in the league. Brock Bowers is tearing it up in Vegas, and it took this coaching staff a good 2/3 of the season.
Could have had Brock Bowers.
They could have, although they've got so many needs. Getting him might have been a luxury. The fact of the matter is, Kelly, Chigakonkwo, to me, has got way more talent than this coaching staff has either believed or figured out. Among the things I don't understand is, why is he stuck in the witness protection program with Rand Carthon?
I don't know. He's been the pleasant surprise for me. I said it earlier in the show. He's been the guy. He's one of those guys that I don't think Vrabel and them knew what they had with him, and I'm not sure. I think they're finding out. I think they're starting to find out. When you give a tight end a reverse, I think you're starting to figure out that the guy can give you something, and I think it's better. It's better. It's better now that they have figured that out. But he's been the pleasant surprise for me, because the guy can run routes. He can make plays. That's what you want as a tight end. And I always love tight ends because they're mismatch problems. And when you can get him the ball, he's shown over and over again that he can make things happen, and he can run after catch, and he can make people miss. He can run over people. He can run around people. And when he breaks away in that long play that he had, I think it was against the Texans, he can show you that he can make things happen. So I would try to get him the ball more if I'm a coaching staff and you know what you got. Now, this year's over, but next year going into it, he's one of the weapons that, hey, we know what he can do now. We trust him. Now let's use him more.
Yeah, I mean, it's concerning to me, given all the mini camps and training camps and football, why it took them 2/3 of the season to figure that out is beyond my comprehension. But whatever. Those of you who are watching this by way of podcast, congratulations. You got to see a Titans touchdown. After the break, we're going to cut through all the crap and then get to the real issue. The Titans have got a chance at the second pick in the draft. What does that mean? On first blush, what would you do? And do you have any level of confidence that the people who, at least right now, are in charge of making that decision won't screw it up? This is 94.9, The Fan.
This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in a car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com. Are you concerned about the Medicare Part D changes for 2025? Believe me, you're not alone. You need to contact Pancos Benefits. They'll make the changes clear and easy to understand. Trust Pancos to guide you through it all. Their knowledgeable team is here to help you understand the updates and make informed decisions about your Medicare coverage. Don't navigate these changes alone. Call Pancos Benefits today at 615-292-3400 and choose option 3, or visit pancosbenefits.com. That's 615-292-3400 and choose option 3.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Okay, by virtue of the New York Giants' upset victory yesterday at home against Indy, here is the new, at this moment, draft order. New England, congratulations to the Patriots. What a wonderful effort Saturday against the Chargers to the tune of 40-7. Number 1 pick goes to the Patriots. The Titans, double congratulations, are now in the 2 hole. At the moment, the Giants are number 3, and the hideous Cleveland Browns are number 4. Okay, so, Kelly, let's talk through at first blush what you think as you see this draft order, and we congratulate Jacksonville on their 4 wins, 2 of which came against the Titans. And boy, I am cynical today. So I'm going to go with the assumption that New England has their quarterback in Drake May. And I think they do. And I think there's a chance he's going to be really good. So smart money would seem to tell you there's a real possibility that New England will trade out of the number 1 and allow some team that falls in love with Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward or whoever to be number 1. You buy that?
I do buy that. That's going to happen. New England's probably going to trade that pick.
So the likelihood is that the team that ends up with the number 1 wants a quarterback, or they wouldn't be going to number 1. The Titans would be sitting there at number 2 in a quarterback class that, to be honest, has not excited anybody to begin with. But then you add new development Saturday. Shedeur Sanders looked like crap. Frankly, Colorado looked like crap. And for all of Deion's boasting about how we don't tap out, they tapped out. They tapped out. They got the crap kicked out of them by BYU. And then there's Cam Ward. And we'll get into Cam Ward's issues later, which have caused a little bit of a dumpster fire. But Kelly, if you're going to draft Cam Ward, don't you have to ask him a ton of questions in the when you get to the combine and you can interview him about what the hell were you thinking on Saturday?
Yeah, that doesn't bode well for him. That doesn't bode well for a guy like me and George. Now, I don't know if it'd bother a guy like Billy. I don't think Billy would care, but
Wow.
generation, whatever you are, Billy. But yeah, that didn't sit well with me. I don't think that was a very good look for anybody. Just you're going to play, and then you got what you came to do, and then you're just going to sit out in the second half. That's why I think what Shador, yeah, they laid that, but still, he and Travis Hunter were still playing at the end of the game, and they had no shot of winning that game. So that kind of says something to me a little bit that they're competitive, and if you're competitive, you want to play. And I didn't like that about Cam Ward. I really didn't. I'm not sure how good of a pro Cam Ward will be. I don't think he's not very tall, is he, guys? How tall is he, Billy? Do we know?
He is 6'2".
Oh, he is 6'2". Okay, so he's not Drew Brees or Russell Wilson size. I don't know. There's question marks for me watching him play, and with what he did this past Saturday, is he really like that? But I think that's kind of the new age athlete, George. It's all about, it's kind of selfish. It's about me. What can I get? I'm trying to make it to the NFL, but what can you pay me now? Like if I come onto campus, I want $5,000. I'm hearing stories about that, and it's just that just kind of goes with it. And I do like what Dion said. Like, if you're a football player, you play football. And that's kind of the way I think. I think he's kind of an old school coach. I know sometimes he gets on our nerves with what he says and the things he just keeps talking and talking. But I wish we could go back to that. Now, will we ever? I'm not sure. But it just seems like Cam Ward did what most of these young guys would do nowadays. It's not about the team anymore. It's about me and what I can get to prolong my career and to get me somewhere else to a higher level. And it didn't bode well for me, and I don't know what it'll do to people in the NFL, to the brass in the NFL. But here's the deal. Anthony Richardson, who's got hurt and didn't play yesterday for the Indianapolis Colts, and they get upset by the Jets. But a couple of months ago, I said on the air, like, if I'm the coach, he's never playing for me again, because he comes out because he's tired and it's the stretch run in a game. What kind of sense does that make? But when you hear something like Anthony Richardson did, and now what Cam Ward did, does it really matter anymore, George?
Okay, let me try this one on you guys. So, assuming that the Titans are in the 2-hole, my own gut feeling, and look, I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about it, but my first impression is that none of these quarterbacks coming out feel like the second pick in the draft. And if that's the case, then for me, the first really good bridge option, if Sam Darnold is going to stay in Minnesota, and I think more and more people believe that because he just keeps killing it with the Vikings. The best option out there as a bridge is Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Should he be the Titans' number one bridge quarterback candidate?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. People talk about Derek Carr. I mean, he didn't strike me as a good bridge. If you can get Kirk Cousins in here as your bridge, what if Kirk comes in and he looks like Sam Darnold? Now the Titans aren't the team the Vikings are, but maybe Kirk would have that chip on his shoulder. I'm with you.
So now let's look at it from Cousins' point of view. Mobility is not a strength of his. Not that he's in a wheelchair, but he's not great mobility. And he's got a chance to get killed behind this offensive line, especially if the people making decisions don't improve this offensive line a ton. Why would Kirk Cousins want the Titans other than money?
That's the only reason, other than money. They would have to fork out some money for him. That's the only reason I would come here. But he's at the latter part of his career, George, and he got benched because he wasn't playing very good and he was turning the ball over. And you're seeing now what Michael Penix did. So Michael Penix can move around a little bit. He's not really known for a runner, but he can run around some. But yeah, that like it's at the latter part of Kirk Cousins' career. His talent, his skills they're diminishing. When we get older, they start to diminish a little bit, and he can't move like he used to. But this might be the only opportunity that he gets to play football again. Somebody might not else give him the opportunity, but I think that if he's got decisions to make, if he's got some other teams that may be interested in him, yeah, it comes down to money. Are you going to give him more money to be that guy for 1 year? And he knows that coming in. You just tell him that's the deal. We're trying to get you to bridge us so we can figure out what we're going to do in the near future at quarterback.
The CBS Sports latest mock draft has the Patriots taking Travis Hunter at number 1 and the Titans taking Tedoroa McMillan, receiver from Arizona, at number 2. I wonder if the Patriots are sitting there going, hey, let's not trade back. We're going to go take Travis Hunter, the best player in the draft.
Okay, let me ask you a question here. Of all of the needs that the Titans have, why would wide receiver be number 1 on their list right now? That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
That makes no sense whatsoever to me. I don't know. Maybe they don't think Calvin Ridley's the number 1 guy. I don't know. I don't know why you would do that, because I think there's some gaps in your team, obviously on the offensive line, that you need to look at, like right tackle. But right tackle's not like a left tackle in the National Football League. So you're probably not going to draft a right tackle at number 2. So it's either going to be a quarterback or I don't know where you go other than that, George. I really don't. So
okay, let me throw the other options out there.
Corner or something, maybe.
Let's assume that New England, which has every bit as many needs right now as the Titans, which is hard to believe but true, that they're likely, since they've already got their quarterback of the future and they feel really good about him, to try to trade down and get a bunch of picks, right?
Right.
And that the team coming in would be the one to choose a quarterback. Somebody's in love with Shedeur Sanders or Ward or Milroe or whoever, and they're going to pick a quarterback. So the Titans at 2, you have to sort of think are the team that would have the opportunity to either take Travis Hunter, who feels like a generational kind of talent, or attempt to trade down and get a bunch of pieces on a team that is an absolute disaster. What would y'all do?
Golly, George, that's a really good question. I think that I was thinking that when you started this. I think if it's me, if you don't like the quarterback class, which I'm not sure about the quarterback class myself. I don't know if Jalen Milroe's a guy. I don't know if Cam Ward's a guy. I don't know if Shedeur, like he came from Deion, but I don't know. I mean, there's still question marks. I'm not sure that any of these guys that are coming in the draft this year at quarterback are a true day 1 starter. I don't know if that's the case. So I'm thinking that maybe if I could get a bunch of picks and if I could get a left tackle, I know that they got J.C. Latham over at left tackle, but like maybe move him back to right tackle and get a true left tackle. Maybe do something like that. I'm probably going to see if I can do the Dallas Cowboy trade of a lifetime. I'm going to see how many picks I can get, and probably move back with that number 2 pick. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
And that's what the Rams did, and it resulted in a Super Bowl for them. So. Yeah. I don't think there's any harm in you draft Travis Hunter. He could be miserable 3 months in. I mean, you wouldn't have a quarterback, right? I mean, they're not getting Sam Darnold, and the best you could do, like you said, George, looks like Kirk Cousins, who is old, and I'm nothing against Cousins, but behind that offensive line, I wouldn't be excited to watch that. So I'm with you, Kelly, that Kelvin Banks is there. And he is a true left tackle. And I saw him live when Texas played at Vandy, and he is a monster. So you have him at the left tackle spot. You send what's his name? Kid from Alabama
JD
back.
Latham, yeah.
You send Latham back to right tackle. You've got your corners locked up there. Hopefully Latham's fine with that. Then you've got a foundation, and you add picks in that draft. I'm with you, George. I think as opposed to taking Hunter, that's a luxury pick. He's the best player on the board. I wouldn't be mad about that, but you've got so many other needs before that.
Now, let me broach a subject that Dion brought up at one point. And understand, I'm just sort of stating it in my opinion. Do I have any level of confidence in this front office to end up making this work out good? No, and none of you do either, if we're being honest. So Dion mouthed off some weeks ago something to the effect that I'll see to it that Shedeur doesn't go to certain teams.
Yeah.
At the combine, assuming the Titans are still at number 2, don't they have to look Shedeur in the eye and say, listen, let's cut the crap? Is Daddy going to let you come here if we were to pick you?
Yes,
don't you
absolutely.
have to ask that question?
Absolutely, because I think that's a huge turnoff to me if I'm a front office and I know that I got to deal with that, and I don't know how Dion will be with his son in an organization and how he's going to handle that. I think it's going to be like Archie and the Eli deal, where he was not going to San Diego and they drafted him, and then they end up making that switch with the New York Giants, and then hey, the rest is history. So it worked out there. But I'm sure that Dion is going to look, and I can say you probably would have problems with him, because if you're going to pick him and he looked at the roster and he sees how these quarterbacks have been beat up with this offensive line, and he looks at it and he's like, we're just not going there. And I can see that happening. I could see, and I would do the exact thing that you're talking about, George. At the combine, I would sit him down and I would say, hey, here's the situation. We're thinking about getting you. Is your dad going to let you? Have to ask that question. Is he going to allow you to come to us? Because if he's not, then we're not going to waste our time and money coming to work you out and go through all these background checks and do all that stuff. If we're just not going to waste our time on that. So I think that is something that you have to sit down and look him face to face, eye to eye, and ask him that question.
How does this
Billy,
how does this compare to Archie Manning and what he was doing for Eli?
I
don't know the ins and outs, George. I've heard a little bit of something. I'm not going to say it, but I just think there was a personality conflict with the general manager back then, and I think that he had some experiences with it, and I just don't think that he thought that was the best fit for where Eli needed to go.
Here's one of the things that gets talked about around the league, and I don't think it's the kid's fault, but there is this feeling out there in the NFL of, yes, there's some reasons to really like Shedeur Sanders, but under the other column of negatives is this thought of, do you really want the circus to come to town? There's no question that hurt Tim Tebow years ago, and I think it's going to be used against Shedeur Sanders.
I think you could be right, George. I don't know. I think he is a talented guy, and I think he's a tough kid. I really do. He wasn't playing behind much either, so he's kind of used to it. If he did come to the Tennessee Titans, he's going to be definitely used to getting hit like he did at Colorado. They could not protect him, but Colorado won 9 games last year with this kid at quarterback, and you can say what you want to about Dion, but that's the first time they've won 9 games in a long time. So they just got overmatched in the bowl game. BYU was just better than they were. They had some guys up front that could get pressure, and when you're pressure, I don't care if you're Tom Brady, I don't care if you're Joe Montana, Peyton, whoever it is, when you start getting hit in the mouth and you start running for your life, it has an effect on you. And that's why these defensive ends get paid all that money, because if you can pressure a quarterback and you can make him start thinking about the rush instead of thinking about the game and what he's doing, then you've got him whipped and you're going to win the football game. So I think he's a talent, but I just like I'm with you. Is the circus going to come to town? I'm not sure. It may.
It's definitely one of the things people think about,
Yeah,
and
I
you
mean
hear
that's
it
out
talked
there.
about a lot.
Yep.
Okay, after the break, we'll go stat of the day. Then during the 4 o'clock hour, a variety of college football issues, including our thoughts on the 4 playoff games that are coming up. This is 94.9 The Fan.
Where can you see a saber-toothed tiger rappel from the rafters? How about a catfish fly? The biggest stars in Music City. Not to mention hockey's hottest ticket.
The Predators win!
Only in Smashville. See your Nashville Predators all season long at Bridgestone Arena. Single game tickets are on sale now at NashvillePredators.com. Let's go, Preds!
Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
Convenience and value, 2 words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
We're talking college football playoff coming up, but first, stat of the day brought to you by Apple Collision Centers. 3 locations. You can find them in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, or Gallatin. Give them a call, 615-754-9800, or log on to their website. That's applecollisioncenters.com. All right, we're going to NFL today. This season, 2 quarterbacks have had 13 or more games with a passer rating above 100. Can you name both those quarterbacks?
Okay, Kelly, let's you and I talk through this one out loud. Let's start with Josh Allen. You think he's there?
I think he could be there. Yeah.
Okay. You think Lamar Jackson could be there?
I don't know about Lamar. You think he could be there?
I think it's possible. I think it's more probable than Patrick Mahomes, is it not?
I'm going to say Jared Goff would be one of them.
Okay, I'm going to say that you're probably right about that. How about we go Josh Allen and Jared Goff?
That's what I'm thinking. Jared Goff for sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Billy, show us Josh Allen and Jared Goff.
Incorrect.
Oh, God.
And you
Lamar
were right
Jackson
about Lamar. How about that,
and
George?
Sam Darnold.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
First of all, Darnold should have been on our list. Shame on
They
us.
should have. That's bad. I can't believe Lamar. I would not. You were right. Lamar Jackson. Wow.
Let me ask this, because I'm not sure. I don't sit around all day worrying about QB ratings. You know, to me, it's a little bit like pornography. You know a good one when you see it. Is running part of a QB rating?
George, I knew you were going to ask me this. I haven't even looked at it. I don't understand. I know it's about completion percentage, and the attempts, and I don't know, man. I don't know if that would be. Would that be part? I wouldn't think that would be part of it. Would that be part of it, Billy?
I don't think so.
I think it's just about passing, correct?
Yeah, it's pure passing, although I need to look this up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be good because that would be something that I've always seen that, and I'm like, I don't get into QBR rating. Who cares? I get about completing the ball. Tom Moore said, complete the pass, son, and make the defense work. That's what we're trying to do. That's what I was trying to do. I'm trying to get a 70-something% completion percentage if I could.
Does Tom know how often he's quoted on this show?
I told him not too long ago because he called me and he still wants to know, have you finished my book, son? And I said, I don't read books like that, Tom. I said, I'll read like half a book and then I'll set it down and I won't pick it up for another 5 months. So I was like, you're going to have to chill out with that. Well, it's an easy read, son. Can you not read?
Actually,
done.
rushing is involved. It incorporates
wow.
every aspect of a quarterback's contribution to winning: passing, rushing, turnovers, and penalties.
There you go.
Okay. So congrats to Lamar Jackson and Sam Darnold. We officially welcome all of you into the 4 o'clock hour, and we're going to shift gears. The 3 o'clock was very much pro football. The 4 o'clock is going to be completely college football. Kelly, anybody who is shocked that East Carolina and NC State got into it huge has paid no attention to the level of animosity that goes on in that state. And let's throw North Carolina in there as well. Now, I know a little bit about this because in a younger man's clothes, I turned down East Carolina's play-by-play job about 40 years ago. But when I visited over there, it was very clear that the people at East Carolina hate NC State, hate North Carolina. They think they're treated like a bastard stepchild, and that they get their, that those two schools thumb their noses. And so there was a ton of trash talk going into the game. You could see that one coming a mile away. Just a thought.
I know, but like it's like the Marshall and the West Virginia or the Virginia Techs. Right. Everybody thinks they're a stepchild at some point, but like they're right because I didn't even realize East Carolina was in a bowl game. That's how much it's off with me. Like I know Jeff Blake went to East Carolina. That's about all I know about the Pirates of East Carolina. So they're not marketed well. You really know much, but like you think NC State, Duke, North Carolina, Wake Forest, all those schools like thumb their nose at East Carolina. So I can understand that. And when you get an opportunity, when you're one of those teams like in East Carolina that feels jaded all the time and you feel like you're overlooked all the time and your players aren't good enough to go to these schools, so you have to go to East Carolina, you feel that you got something to prove in that game. And you saw a lot of that come out of those kids the other day, and they end up beating NC State. So good for them. But that's when you feel that way, that's tough to get over. And when you have something to do about it and you start punching guys in the mouth and you start hitting them and you start wearing them out and whipping them and then you end up beating them, there's a lot of pent-up aggression. That's for sure.
That morning, looking at the bowl schedule, I look at ECU and NC State and I'm like, uh-oh. You put these two fan bases together. And the game was in Annapolis, Maryland, which is short drive for both the fan bases, and it was ugly conditions. But I know both those two fan bases. East Carolina, like you said, George, they're the blue collar, fan base. NC State is as well. They're both. Those were the two schools that are both kind of feel like they're looked down upon in North Carolina. And there was a ref that got bloodied. I mean that was ugly.
I got a little message. They opened the 2025 football season against each other at NC State.
Boy.
Now,
that's going to be ugly.
If I'm an officiating crew that knows full well, okay, I've been assigned that game, If I'm the lead of that crew, the first thing I'm doing is going to both coaches and basically saying before it ever starts, look, if I see a player so much as belch at an opposing team's player, I am running him. You are not going to turn this into a heavyweight title fight. And this is where officials, to me, could do themselves a favor in what I would call the pregame love fest, where they get Captain so-and-so, meet Captain so-and-so. Who gives a crap? I'm the head official, and if you belch at this guy, you're gone. I'm running you.
Belch.
I mean, is that not the way it ought to be?
George, I'm starting to think that this stuff is going to start happening more and more with these big brawls like this because of all this money that's coming into it. Now these kids feel like they're entitled to something. The other day, I was watching the bowl between Boston College and Nebraska, and one of the kids' helmet came off, and he was grabbing the other guy by his face mask, and the referee was literally chopping his hand trying to get it down. The kid wouldn't let go, and then we kind of got everybody around it. I mean, it's just where does this stop? You've got to get control of it. The referees that are in charge of the game have to get control of it. But golly, I'm starting to it's starting to bother me a little bit, George. I'm with you. But if you look back over the history of time and the back when the Oakland Raiders and Jack Tatum and all those guys, they used to get in fights too, but it wasn't publicized like it is now. And now it's on Sports Center. But it's I'm afraid that we're going to start seeing this more and more and more as we get going with this.
Okay, let's get to the Pop-Tarts.
All right.
Pop-Tart Bowl in Orlando had the University of Miami and Iowa State. And lo and behold, Cam Ward starts the game for Miami. And they score, gosh, I want to say 5 touchdowns in the first half. And I think Miami led at halftime 35-28. And a funny thing happened on the way to Miami's win. Their starting quarterback quit on them. Now, what I don't know, because nobody at Miami was very forthcoming as to how all this got set up, it kind of feels like Miami might have known that this was the way it was going to be and may have, quote, signed off on it. And if they did, Mario Cristobal, shame on him for allowing it. He should have told Cam Ward, I don't give a damn about Pop-Tarts, but I'm not playing this game with you. Can you imagine the feeling in the locker room of some of those players when they realize that their starting quarterback quit on them?
Oh, George, it's like I just said. I think this stuff like opting out. That's why I like what Deion Sanders said. Hey, we're football players. We play football. I don't understand. But what do you do now, George? Like you're like the players are the dog, and you're holding on to the tail. Like you haven't got control of this thing anymore. If you're a coach, I don't understand how you go about this anymore, George, because there's nothing you can scare these kids with. They're making more money. Some of them making more money than the coach is. So I think football is going down a bad road, a bad path, and I think that we need, just like James Franklin said, we need to get Nick Saban, we need to get Mac Brown, we need to get the Watson Browns of the world in there to bring some sanity back to this deal, because all these kids are opting out in the bowl game. Okay, so if you're opting out, you're going to have a rule now to say if you get NIL money and we go to a bowl game, you have to play in the bowl game. We're paying you to play, and if we don't make the top 12 and we go to a bowl game, you still have to play in that bowl game because we've shit out money for you and we're compensating you. Now you help us. But like, you're right, George. Like, I couldn't have done that as a player, as a human being, knowing that I love the game of football and we're doing this really well in the first half. And now I've got my record. Was it most yardage in a career? Is that what that was, Billy? That he got?
I thought it was career touchdown passes.
Maybe it was career touchdowns. It was Case Keenum that had it, and he got the career touchdown. So now that he does it, he's got his record. Now he's just going to sit down on the guys that he's fought with, that he's bled with, that he's watched film with, that he's been around for a long time, that those guys believed in him. He had them guys in the 12-team playoff, and now since we don't, I'm just going to do this, and then I'm going to holler at y'all. It's crazy, George. And I'm going to tell you this. I talked to a coach the other day, and I'm not going to say the coach's name, but after the last game of the season, he felt something was going on with one of his guys on the team, and he ended up calling him, and he said, why don't we get together tomorrow? And he's like, I'm already gone, coach. And he's like, well, we got a team meeting. We got a team meeting Sunday. And he's like, well, I'm not going to be there. He said, I'm got an opportunity to make a lot of money, some life-changing money. And, like, what do you do as a coach when he says that? Like, you've brought this kid up. Nobody really wanted him. Now you've brought him up, and you've made him successful. You've made him look good. He's helped your team win games. And then he don't even tell you, and he goes off. He flies somewhere. He meets his agent, and now he's going somewhere else after you got – like, it's upside down, George. And you know you're getting that in the NFL, but these college coaches didn't sign up for it. But I am going to say this about what Tony Basilio talks about. The coaches are the one that started it, if you really want to be honest, because there was no loyalty there. I can remember Bobby Petrino saying that he was not going to leave the Atlanta Falcons, and then the next day he's at Arkansas going, "Soup it," you know. I mean, it's just there's no loyalty whatsoever, and that's where it started. And now it bothers a guy who's a traditionalist like me. It's just unwatchable.
So I want to toss this scenario out. Okay? Most schools, when the season is over, the coach will have a meeting with each individual player.
Exit meetings, yes.
Exit meetings. Mine would have been, listen, the quicker you exit, the better. But Billy, let's say I'm a pretty good player, and old Mario Cristobal wants to have a meeting with me, and he says, here are the things you need to work on. Okay, I'm enough of a smart aleck that I would have said, well, listen, big boy, here's some things you need to work on. Okay, did you knowingly allow Cam Ward to quit on us? Did you have a pre-put together deal that allowed him to walk out on his teammates at halftime and go gorge his face with Pop-Tarts? I mean, I'm asking a legitimate question.
I can see some issues starting to merge in Miami right now. I wouldn't be surprised if Miami has a Florida State type season next year.
I mean,
I really wouldn't. And why did either play or don't play? Like that point that paints him as selfish.
Oh, look,
all of them are selfish, Billy. I promise.
You go play just so you can get a record. If I'm Cam Ward, I mean, if that's James Franklin, Franklin's telling him to hit the exits, and hopefully most coaches would, but I don't know about that.
Billy, Kelly, I'll say this: the opt out. It's easier because you've got a group of people that opt out. This is sort of a new deal where a player quits at halftime, and I think what it's going to lead to is Cam Ward going to the combine and either facing the music with a bunch of teams that just drill his butt, or the agent steps in and says, Mr. Ward will not be talking to any of the teams, because they know this is coming up. This is a bad, bad look. This is Benedict Arnold.
I know it's a bad look, George, but here's where I'm getting. Does anybody care? Does anybody care anymore? That's my thing. Does anybody care anymore? Because he's going to the National Football League, and he's not going to do that. Obviously, he's going to get paid. But does anybody care anymore? Because It's just like being in a situation where you're a college coach and you've got a draftable guy that you know that's probably going to get one of the top picks, or he's going to be a first round pick. Well, you know that some of the things that you've probably, I don't know if you've hit them in your program, or you knew it was going on, but you didn't bring it out to light. You didn't let it get into the media. You didn't let it get into the papers. And then these organizations come to you because they're thinking about drafting this guy. And what are you going to do as a head coach? That puts you in a precarious situation where, are you trying to cost this kid money? Are you going to say what you really think about him? That's what has always, it's a moral issue. And I don't think anybody cares anymore, George. I really don't. And that's a bad state of where the game is. I'm just not sure anybody cares, because they can help me win a game in the National Football League. If I think they can do that, I don't care about their past. I'll deal with what we got going on right now.
Kelly, I think that's why under the does anybody care, I think that's why you've got a Franklin yelling about Nick Saban, or a Lane Kiffin yelling about Nick Saban, because deep down they do care more than this. Look, I don't know what went on. If this was not a prearranged deal, at halftime, if I'm Mario Cristobal and Cam Ward goes up to me and says, "Listen, I'm done," I would have lit him up like a Christmas tree in front of the entire team. Now, if it's a preconceived, prearranged deal, and I'm a player on that team being called in to discuss, whether my 40 time needs to get better or whatever, I'm turning it on the coach and saying, "Listen, you quit on us. You sold us down the road. Don't be telling me what I need to do to improve. Here's what you need to do."
See, but the thing too is that I'm thinking about, just what Dion said, what does winning do to you? If you're a competitive person, you want to win. You want to be out there on that football field. So what does that say about him? Is he that guy? Is he that guy? That's the questions I have for you. Are you that guy that you can just give up on something like that you say you love? Or is it just something you're doing? You're not really motivated. You don't really have a desire. You just see the money and all that. Are you really ate up with winning? Are you really ate up with, 5 o'clock in the morning, getting up and working out, or watching film, or doing all that stuff? Are you really ate up with it, or is it all about money for you? Is it all about recognition for you? What is your why? What is your why? That's what I would ask him.
Billy, let me ask you, did you see the last few minutes of that game?
I did not. I watched a lot of it. I didn't see the last part of it.
So Iowa State scores with about a minute left, kick the extra point. They go up 42-41. The backup quarterback, bless his heart, just wasn't ready for that situation. And you're sitting there as Cam Ward, and there's a part of you that's got to be saying, do I tap Cristobal on the shoulder and say, "I'm going back in to win this game for us. This doesn't feel right"? And I guess since that didn't happen, what kind of scene went on in the locker room after it was over? Can you imagine the level of unhappiness among the players that really did try?
And I'm seeing a lot of people come out and say that, this was the plan for Cristobal, to get Ward to play in the first half and then get time to see Emory Williams play against the quality.
Whatever.
Well, that's how you got to sell it. That's how you've got to sell that.
And it's
but nobody's buying it.
No. But he also, Cam Ward broke the record in the first quarter. So if it was just about the record, wouldn't he have said, "Okay, after the first quarter, I'm done"? But he played through. Either way, the optics of it are awful. And if you're Cristobal, I think your hope is that you have it cleared up with your team. There isn't anybody on the team that is sitting here saying, what the hell? Look,
Billy, I think we need to go at some point in the next week down to Miami and get one of their beat writers to tell us what went on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the most despicable things that I have seen in a while.
There's got to be something we're missing, in the inside that might clear it up. But
I mean, you'd have been better off saying, look, he had a stomach virus because he gorged himself on Pop-Tarts.
I don't know. I just don't know how you do that as a coach. Can you imagine, Coach? Can you imagine a kid coming up to Coach Donnelly saying, "I'm not playing in the second half"?
Oh my God!
You would never play again for that man. You know what I'm saying? He would be like, after the game, "Hey, don't even wait, son. Go give your uniform to the manager. Get off my field." You know.
The manager.
The manager. After the break, we'll get into the 4 playoff games, which, after all, I guess are the reason we're putting up with all this. We got a playoff. We got 4 games coming. We'll review them next on 94.9 The Fan.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun. Here's Officer Garen Hoskins for the Metro Nashville Police Department.
The Metro Nashville Police Department is on the forefront of policing in this century, and I'm glad I'm a part of it. I'm glad I get to find other good officers, other future good officers. And if you're watching today, or you yourself or someone you happen to know is interested, join MNPD.com. Feel free to reach out to us because we need good officers, and it's a great city to work for.
Are you concerned about the Medicare Part D changes for 2025? Believe me, you're not alone. You need to contact Pancoast Benefits. They'll make the changes clear and easy to understand. Trust Pancoast to guide you through it all. Their knowledgeable team is here to help you understand the updates and make informed decisions about your Medicare coverage. Don't navigate these changes alone. Call Pancoast Benefits today at 615-292-3400 and choose option 3, or visit pancoastbenefits.com. That's 615-292-3400 and choose option 3.
Convenience and value, 2 words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
So one of the fun things that'll go on as we approach 2025 is round 2 of the college football playoffs. And as you can see, we've got a New Year's Eve night game in the Fiesta Bowl with Penn State, Boise State. And there's the line on it. Penn State is an 11-point favorite. You see the schedule for January the 1st. Peach Bowl starts it out at noon with Texas, Arizona State. Rose Bowl at 4 o'clock, Ohio State, Oregon. And then we cap it off with a Sugar Bowl game that has Georgia and Notre Dame. Guys, most of the country, it feels like, has sort of pigeonholed the first two of these games as duds and the second two as potential instant classics. Is that the way y'all see it?
I mean, yeah, but I think Boise is a team that's dangerous. They're playing in the Fiesta Bowl, not a long trip for their fans. They're undefeated in the Fiesta Bowl whenever they've played there, but so is Penn State. Penn State is also undefeated in the Fiesta Bowl, so it's kind of a weird matchup in that way. But Boise State has the best player on the field, that Ashton Genty. That's why they have a chance. Now, their defense will probably in the fourth quarter be gassed, and Penn State might win this game. But I think Boise covers here because of Ashton Genty. Say he gets loose for an early touchdown, they get momentum. I can see James Franklin and Penn State getting tight in this one, and Boise, finding a way, and maybe not to win, but to cover. I think of those two first games, I think Boise has a better shot at beating Penn State than Arizona State does against Texas.
Billy, are you just trying to hype up your silly underdog pick? Is that what you're trying to do?
No,
is that what you really believe that?
I really do. I think Boise has a real shot at Penn State.
I do. Yeah, I do not. But maybe they do. I don't know.
But what
George.
about
I just
Penn
think
State? What about Penn State scares you?
nothing. There's nothing about Penn State scares me, but I just think they're better. They're better than Boise. I'm kind of with you though, talking about James Franklin. Like he has one of those moments during the year. They've already had it against Ohio State. He already shows that he has trouble against Ohio State. But is this going to be another game that he has trouble with? And it could happen because he seems like he messes up one or two games during the year, and it's always Ohio State and somebody else, and this could be the somebody else. I don't know, but I just heard Herbstreit talking about this not too long ago, and I think he laid it out there for everybody, just talking about how I think the committee's got to go back next year, and even though Indiana's 11-1, who have they played? Even though some of these teams have only lost one game or two games, who have they played? And I think that's when you start getting better competition now. But I've told y'all this. I'm a small school guy. I love Boise State. I love those teams being in there. They're having an opportunity. But is it going to be a good game? I'm not sure of that. And it's an 11-point spread. I don't know if they're duds, but in the climax of this whole thing, George, because Penn State's expected to beat Boise State. Texas is expected to beat Arizona State. And is that going to put a little bit more pressure on Penn State and Texas because they're supposed to? So does that get them to come out in the game a little flat? And if they do that, give Boise State or Arizona State a little bit of confidence. And the longer you give a team confidence, the more they stay in it. So that could happen in these games. I don't see it happening, but it could.
Kelly, I think you're hitting on something without having quite gone the distance on it. That the Penn State and Texas are the teams expected to win. They'll come out loose, but if the game is tight and it gets into the third quarter, that's where you worry about James Franklin and his ability to go first and goal at the 6. Run it up the middle 3 times and then kick a field goal. What Billy put out there in his attempt to coerce you into thinking his underdog pick will win.
That's right.
Is that the great running back will equalize? Well, if that's the case, what about Scattaboo?
Yeah. What about him, Billy? Tell us.
Yeah, but Texas has the best defense in the country. Penn State's defense is not as good as Texas's, And, I know Arizona State has, they've found some success with Scatterbo, but they're playing Texas is a different animal than Penn State.
Well, let me ask this question. If it's the best defense in the country, why didn't they beat Georgia?
Really, where are you coming from? This is kind of like saying that East Carolina and NC State had a small ride to Maryland. That's kind of a drive there, Hoss. It's not right around the corner. You know what I'm saying? I mean, where do you come up with this at, dude?
Look at Texas. I mean, they have the best defense in the country.
Says who? You?
Yes. Many people have said that.
Who's many people? Give me one.
Many SEC people that have watched Texas play.
A&M. A&M thinks it. I mean, I guess I just sort of.
But Scatterbo's not Genty either. We need to accept that.
Okay, different style, equally as effective.
You put a good defense against Scatterbo, I think they can find a way to corral him. Genty is such a freak that I think he's that good to defy, what that defense tries to do against him.
Billy, as George always says, you're taking on water, Hoss. You're taking on water.
Y'all are going to see Texas's defense against Arizona State. They're going to swallow them up.
So I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying the best defense in the country.
Okay, and they couldn't beat Georgia. You can say that about a lot of teams.
I know, but you said it. You said they're the best team in the country. So we're just trying to get on the defense in the country. So I'm just,
we move on?
I don't know. Yes.
For the record,
sure.
And this shows that maybe I'm trying to stir something up. The drive from East Carolina University to Annapolis, Maryland is 5 hours and 3 minutes.
Okay, that's
not just right around the corner, Billy.
Okay, that was longer.
You made it sound like it was from Murfreesboro to Nashville.
Thanks for stirring that up, George.
So both of you kind of think the first two are duds, correct?
On the whole.
They may be okay, but I don't know if they will be. I'm not sure about that.
Okay. So when we get to 4:00 on Wednesday, this is just me. I believe Oregon State, Ohio State, and Notre Dame, Georgia would be instant classics. Do you all agree?
I think so, because I think with the quarterback in the Notre Dame Georgia game, I think that presents a new problem for Georgia. So I think that Notre Dame, Notre Dame's defense is really good. I think their quarterback struggles throwing the ball some, but he is obviously an established runner. We know he can run. He can make things happen with his feet. He's going against a rough defense that's been there, that's done that. I just don't know how the young quarterback for Georgia is going to handle this situation. That's the question I have in that game. Now I said earlier in the year that I thought Ohio State will win the national championship, so I'm still sticking with that. But man, Dylan Gabriel is a really good football player. He's a heady guy. He's smart. He puts the ball where it needs to be put. He's got a really good receiver in the Tez Johnson kid that my son played with at Troy. He got to Oregon because of Bo Nix. Bo Nix took him in. His parents took him in, and he played with him, and that's how he got to Oregon. And he's made the most of it. The Big Ten championship MVP. He's hard to cover. So they've got weapons all around, but if Will Howard plays like he played in that Tennessee game and they get it to that young freshman outside, they're hard to beat. They've got guys everywhere on the field, and defensively, they're really good too. So that could be an instant classic, Georgia. I just think the other one, the question mark, is the young quarterback that's coming in for Georgia.
Okay, let me ask you about that. Because Kelly, for the most part, take away one mistake he made, I really liked what I saw out of him, but I also have this thought in my head that, well, he didn't have enough time to get scared or worry. That now he's had, basically 3 weeks to stare at a wall and go, I'm trying to lead Georgia to a national title. Does that end up making a difference?
It could. I've been in that situation before where you're the backup on the field and the starter goes down and your brain instantly goes to something else and you're not thinking about anything else. You're just thinking about, hey, this is what I got to do. I got to go in here, and it's kind of a quick deal where it's a quick turnaround for you. You just have to go in and you just, I'm not saying you go on a different mode, but that's how your brain works. Now, when you've got 3 weeks to think about it and you sit there at nighttime and you're like, man, this is the biggest game I've ever played in, and it's for so much, and people are expecting, we're Georgia, we've won the last 2 out of 3 national championships, and there's so much pressure, and now I'm the quarterback. You got to have a good support system, and you got to have guys around you that can make plays, and it's just going to be interesting to see how he plays in that. And George, you do get to thinking about that when you got a long time to think about it.
Gunnar Stockton gives me some Stetson Bennett vibes a little bit. He grew up in Georgia. Nick Saban came out, not, obviously he hasn't done all of what Stetson Bennett has done, but Nick Saban came out and said he recruited him at Alabama. He recruited him to Alabama, and this is a good quarterback. Now, the thing is, he hasn't played. And I know he went in there and played in the second half. This is going to be different. Lights on, Sugar Bowl, that Notre Dame defense. It's Georgia, yes, but at what point does the player on the field, the player under center, make a big difference for you? I say he reminds me. This story could remind me a little bit of Stetson Bennett, but this Notre Dame defense has a chance. I send the house on this guy if I'm Notre Dame's defensive coordinator, especially early, to try to. But I mean, he took a hit. Remember that hit he took against Texas?
Oh yeah,
and got right back up.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
This is a tough kid, so I don't know that there'll be a ton that rattles him.
You realize that in the old days, if this had been a playoff game in the 90s, if we had had such a thing, the experience of playing in the big games would all be in Notre Dame's corner. Notre Dame plays in all the big games. Georgia hadn't been there in more than a decade. Now, all of a sudden, the roles have been reversed. Georgia is used to this, and Notre Dame hadn't won a national title in Billy's lifetime. 1988 was Notre Dame's last national title.
Oh,
not much of a Catholicism moment, was it?
He was trying to get it in there, though, George. You see how he was talking the Notre Dame Fighting Irish up for sure.
Right.
You look at that line though. Vegas believes Notre Dame is live here. I mean, that's it's all because of the young quarterback. I'm just telling you. Like, if Carson Beck is in this game, it's probably different, Billy. And that's what I was going to ask y'all too. With all this NIL stuff that's coming out, and Carson Beck has showed that he bought himself a Lamborghini. Now he's declared for the NFL draft. Probably not going to be what he thought it was if he's having UCL surgery. There's going to be a lot of question marks about him, and especially the way that he played. So I think this is a perfect example of these young men that get all this money. I would probably put it up and save it instead of going out and buying me something.
Well, he's going to have to take a pay cut.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point, George.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Since that got out this weekend, I don't feel a lot of, oh, man, let me get in line to get Carson Beck. I don't think he was all that good this year.
He hadn't played all that good this year. He's turned the ball over. He started really slow. He's been on the Georgia, with the way that Kirby Smart recruits now, they're one of the more talented teams year in and year out in the field. So He just did not play good, and I think his stock has gone down. And I think this UCL deal that he had in his elbow is probably going to hurt him a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see where he even goes in the draft, because I don't think I don't think you can look at him now and say he's one of the top picks of the I think Mel Kiper had him in the top 5, but I'm not sure. It's just I can remember when, George, you had me do the who we thought were the best quarterbacks and rank them at the beginning of the year, and he was at the top for me because he played he played a good year the year before, and this year he just has not lived up to expectation. Then sometimes you have down years, don't know why, but I just don't know if he's going to be that guy that everybody thought he was going to be to begin the year.
And in that second half, Stockton just lit a fire into that Georgia team, and they played harder for him. Kirby Smart said that today. Is that an indictment? I mean, I don't know if that should be an indictment on Carson Beck, but I mean, that team woke up and played, and they were fired up and motivated. And was there something against Carson Beck on that team? I mean,
no. Sometimes that happens, though, Billy. When somebody goes down, coaches always preach that when somebody goes down, somebody's got to pick it up, and the guys that are playing have got to raise their level. And I think that's kind of what you saw. They knew, especially at the quarterback position, it's the most important position on the field now, not only in the NFL but in the college ranks. It used to not be that way because they used to hand the ball off to the Herschel Walkers and the Emmitt Smiths of the world, and that's not happening anymore. If you don't have a quarterback in either league, you're not doing very well. So everybody on the team said, hey, we got to step our game up, and I think that's what you saw in that game.
Okay, and by the way, when we get to Plaster Bet of the Day, which, Kelly, as you know, is a commitment to excellence, I will have a play on each of the 4 playoff games.
Oh, you will? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
That's going to be interesting to see where you go there, George.
I don't dodge any bullets. Now let's get to the one that everybody's talking about. The first game was a classic. It felt like Ohio State was barely the better team, but in the end couldn't pull it off because of the slide too late and all that kind of stuff. Is it as simple as this is more of a neutral site, Ohio State wins?
I think Ohio State keeps rolling. I mean, the way they played against Tennessee at home, how does that not light a fire under them and say, man, we can beat anybody? It is the most talented team in the country. Dan Lanning said that. Now, and I look at this too, remember, go back to last year, Washington beat Oregon twice in the same season, and Lanning went through that with his team. Part of me thinks that Oregon has the coaching advantage here. If it's tight late in the game, who do you trust more, Dan Lanning in Oregon or Ryan Day in Ohio State? I lean Dan Lanning, but guys, Kelly, I don't know who to pick here. I mean, this is borderline impossible to pick.
Why do you pick Dan Lanning? Do you know? I mean, I like Ryan Day. He's under so much pressure at that place, and I think he came out in the Tennessee game. They were obviously better than Tennessee, but everybody talks. We all talk about him getting fired. Hey, I know there's a lot of pressure under there, but he's been in a lot of big games, and he has come up short. But the teams that he's played and got beat, Ohio State, have gotten beat by have been really good teams. They've been beat by Georgia. They've been beat by the Alabamas, who were really good those years, and they just couldn't stack up. And I don't know if it has a little bit of something to do with him, but like he's been in more big games at Ohio State than Dan Lanning has at Oregon.
Billy, can you put the playoff bracket up there?
Yeah.
For those of you who are watching this by way of podcast, here's something that really hadn't gotten a lot of attention, but I think is going to be a crucial piece of, however, let's see here.
Just keep talking.
I don't have anything to say.
C note. That's a C note fine.
Well, just give it to Kelly then. He'll.
Okay.
He's good at that.
So
C note.
Kelly, think about this. So in the playoff bracket, the way it is established, the winner of the Ohio State-Oregon game potentially has to play Texas 7 days later.
Yeah.
Huge advantage, hook 'em horns.
Huge advantage.
Under the category of, can one of those two teams get back up 7 days later if they've got to deal with Texas? Is that
George,
not a huge advantage?
A huge advantage. And this is where I think that I like what you said like last week or 2 weeks ago about maybe they need to, after the first round games, maybe they need to reseed these teams. Because like if you're Oregon, you got a bye, but now you have to play Ohio State. I don't know. I think you probably need to reseed after that. I think that's a good suggestion, or there's going to have to be something done about that. But like you're right, and at some point you're going to have to play a tough team. We get it, but like if you're the number 1 seed and you got to bye, now you got to play I don't know if it's a Big Ten rival at this point. It seems like Oregon being in the Big Ten. I don't know if it's a rivalry yet, but I'm sure with the players it is. But that seems unfair to me. It really does. And they've got a huge bad draw because if they do beat Ohio State, you're right. Now they're probably more than likely going to have to play Texas. That's tough.
Because it would feel like, and maybe we end up being wrong, but whoever wins the Ohio State-Oregon game, it feels like they are going to have to empty every barrel known to man to pull it off. And now all of a sudden, a week later, I mean, this is not UL Monroe a week later. This might be Texas.
Yeah. The first thing they need to do is you cannot have Boise State with a bye. You cannot have Arizona State with a bye. So that needs to be changed. Also, to get better games, that opening weekend of the playoff was pathetic. I mean, yeah, Clemson made it a game late with Texas, and, Indiana, Notre Dame, I guess, was okay in the first half. But other than that, that was
bad.
That was bad TV, and it tuned people out. So the next thing you need to do is, like Herb Street said, Kelly, just because Indiana went 11-1 does not mean they are deserving of a bid.
Yeah, but would you be saying that if it was Vandy?
But let's look in reality here, George. Vandy's not going 11-1 in the SEC.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is when your school has sucked as long as Indiana's has, how would you feel at being left out at 11-1 while being in a power conference? What do you do?
And that's the question. You're put in a pickle, but all I'm saying is we want good games. We don't want sleepers in this playoff. So you have to reevaluate. Maybe you keep Indiana in, but that Notre Dame game, Indiana did not belong on the same field with them, is what I'm saying. And that was easy to see. Alabama, and again, maybe the same thing happens to Alabama, South Carolina, but you have to reevaluate how you think about and how you evaluate these teams. Losses matter, but who did you beat? I think that's important as well.
And they didn't put enough on that as they should have. Guys, after the break, it's the defining word, Kelly.
I'm so sick of the defining word, George. Please stop.
Plaster Bet of the Day is coming up on 94.9 The Fan.
Where can you see a saber-toothed tiger rappel from the rafters? How about a catfish fly? The biggest stars in Music City. Not to mention hockey's hottest ticket.
The Predators win!
Only in Smashville. See your Nashville Predators all season long at Bridgestone Arena. Single game tickets are on sale now at NashvillePredators.com. Let's go, Preds!
Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, Don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
Final segment on a Monday. The latest AP poll in college hoops is here. Tennessee still at number 1. Auburn at number 2. Alabama is up to number 5. And Kentucky up to number 10. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 SEC teams in the top 10. All right, let's see where George is going with Bet of the Day, brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. But first, we review what happened. When was that Seattle game?
2.5 weeks ago. I don't really know.
It was a barn burner that went to the top of the bottom of the ninth. Good gracious, what was it? 6-3?
Oh, that was the Thursday night game. They didn't even score a touchdown.
And yet, in spite of that, I am 17 games over 500. So, Kelly, whether you like it or not, you need to pay close attention.
You're making folks money, ain't you?
Absolutely, and they know it. They're coming out in droves. Can't you feel it?
I can.
The whole city's talking about it. Okay, let's start with the game tonight on Monday Night Football. I'm going to take Detroit simply because San Fran appears to have died on the vine. Nothing more, nothing less. This sort of is kind of a move on. Let's get to Detroit, Minnesota next Sunday night for all the marbles. Now,
by the way, that's the most wins for Sunday night games. That's the most wins between two teams matched up together. 13 and 14 wins.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Playoff game number 1. I am taking Penn State under the belief that while I'm not that sold on Drew Aller, Boise State's secondary is just not Power 5 kind of feel. There are a lot of things about Boise State that feel like Power 4. Ashton Genty is Power 4, but their secondary isn't. And Penn State's got a great tight end, number 85, Warren, and he's going to run wild on Boise. And Penn State is going to win, and they're going to cover. You got that one, Kelly?
I got it, man. We'll see.
Okay. Now, here comes the surprise. I'm taking Arizona State.
Okay.
Why am I taking Arizona State? Because they are going to blitz the kitchen sink on old Quinn Ewers. The way to get at Texas.
George hating on Quinn Ewers again.
The way to get at Texas.
Billy, he's hater, dude.
Why, let me ask you this. If he's so great, why do you never hear his name in the top 5 quarterbacks?
No, I'm with you. It's fun. It's funny just hearing you hate on him, but I am with you on him. Like I
don't think he's great.
The way he just withers under pressure, like he has zero escapability. And I know he's been hurt. That ankle hasn't helped. Maybe he'll feel healthier, but like and he's got the way their offense operates. It's just quick game stuff. So I mean, it works for him, but he's not the most fleet of foot.
The other concerning thing, first of all, if you're Arizona State, you send the kitchen sink. They've been red hot, and Scattaboo has gotten a lot of national talk. For all of this, Texas has the best defense in the country. Did you see Clemson run up and down on them? Hello?
Yeah, Billy. Best defense in the country. Get the flip out of here with that.
Just wait. Just wait.
Arizona State plus 12.5. Take it. Now, let's get to the big one. I'm taking Ohio State. Why? Because in the end, I just think they are more solid. I think there's some things about them. I think they're more physical than Oregon. I want to believe that Ohio State will get a better grasp on Oregon's offense than they did in game one, because I got to throw up my hands and admit Ohio State's defense in game one sucked. Yeah. Surely to goodness they will be better in game two. If they are, they're going to win this game, but not by much. And then, Billy, the final game has Notre Dame against Georgia. Would you like to?
Georgia. He's taking Georgia, Billy.
No, this is Notre Dame all the way.
Ask me, Kelly, who I'm taking.
Who are you taking, George?
I'm taking Georgia. Okay? Let me make clear why. They're better. They're used to being here. Notre Dame withers under this kind of stuff when they don't have the Golden Dome. You know, they don't have all that stuff they had against Indiana. This is neutral site at best. This is Georgia's defense. This is Georgia knows how to win. Cut the crap. Georgia wins.
Billy, give us the Catholicism moment of the day.
Lord, hear our prayer.
Speak your case.
Pray for George, because he's going to need it when Notre Dame upsets Georgia.
Yeah. Well,
okay. Good luck.
Guys, that's it. We're done.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Kelly, try to start 2025 with a better attitude.
Thought I've always got a good attitude.
I don't know.
Just because I tell the truth. I was telling somebody today, they were talking about in this world today, you can't tell people the truth. And I said, you know what? Yeah, I get it every day, man. I say the truth, and people can't handle the truth, Billy.
Save it until 2026. Happy New Year's, guys.
You too. Happy New Year's, fellas.
Happy New Year's to all the listeners. We'll be back with you on Thursday, and we're going to go to a lot of phone calls. See you then.